here to answer the top 5 questions I got when people found out that I was going to Egypt with EFultimatebreak. The first question I would always get is, why Egypt? And my answer is always, why not? We grew up in school learning about hieroglyphics and pyramids and mummies and the ancient Egyptians, and all we ever see are pictures in a textbook. And why would you not want to go see that for yourselves? These huge pyramids in person, mummies, real life in person, the hieroglyphics, the giant temples that somehow these ancient Egyptians built without modern technology. It sounds amazing, and it was amazing, and I don't see why anybody wouldn't want to go experience that for themselves. The second most common question I would get is Egypt safe? I obviously didn't know much about it firsthand before I went, but I've traveled with EFultimatebreak 2 other times before this, so I felt pretty confident in their ability to pick safe tour directors, safe hotels, recommend safe activities, and free time and all of that, so I wasn't very worried about it. The U.S. Embassy does have Egypt listed as a level 3 restriction due to terrorism, and they recommend reconsidering tourism. We did not see much of a problem with any safety at all while we were there. We have armed guards that escorted us through all the touristy areas like the pyramids and the temples, and they were always on the bus with us. There were a lot of police checkpoints that we went through, and all of that made me personally feel pretty safe. Our tour director said that Egypt's a really safe country and that we shouldn't be worried about it. We didn't really have anybody following us around. We got some catcalls, the females, but that's pretty common in most places that you go. But they were pretty good about leaving you alone once you said no thank you to whatever it is they were selling. The third question I would get is, what is included in the price of the tour and how much money did you spend while you were over there? As with all EFultimatebreak tours, flights are included, hotels are included, transportation between cities, and a lot of the tours are all included. This one was an EF Ultimate Plus trip, so we stayed in better accommodations. All lunches, breakfasts, and dinners were included, except for maybe a lunch here and there. So there wasn't much cost on food unless you just wanted to go and get another snack or you just want to eat something different. In advance, we paid for the sunrise hot air balloon ride in Luxor. You could pay it there also. It was, I believe, 400 Egyptian pounds. It was amazing. I paid for it in advance. I would 100% recommend the sunrise hot air balloon ride. I'll have to show some pictures of that. It was probably the top experience of the whole trip, second to actually seeing the pyramids, of course. The tours are also included, like the temples and entrance into the pyramid complex. There were some that were extra, like King Tut's tomb in the Valley of the Kings. You had to pay to get an extra ticket for that. 3 tombs were included, but it did not include King Tut. It was pretty cool because it was very colorful. It's still preserved really well, and his mummy was inside there when I went. So it was pretty cool to see his mummy in person, because it's one of the mummies that you grow up hearing about. Another thing that you had to pay extra for was entrance into the Great Pyramid. If you got the extra ticket, then you can go inside and all the way up to the top of the biggest Great Pyramid. And that was pretty cool. They said it was really small, so claustrophobic people beware. I'm 5'5", and I just had to crouch down a little bit, so it wasn't as small as they made it sound. But it is a pretty steep incline, and it was pretty warm in there even when I went in March, so I couldn't imagine in August how hot it would be in there, because it's just surrounded by giant blocks. But you get to go all the way up to the top, where they have a big open chamber up there, and then you can come back down and back out. but it was pretty cool. I would recommend doing both of the extra ones, just because you're in Egypt, so why not? Also, on every bus ride, they would give you a bottle of water. There's water in all the hotel rooms. They recommend not drinking any of the water in Egypt, which definitely I would also recommend. But you have plenty of bottled water, so that's not something to worry about. The fourth question I get is, what is the weather like in Egypt? When you think of the desert in Egypt in particular, you think hot, sunny, and sandy. And you're not necessarily wrong. When I went in March, the high was about 68 degrees every day, and the low was in the 50s, which was much chillier than I expected it to be. I only brought a light jacket, which we'll get to the packing list later, and I had some regrets on that front. I should have brought some more sleeves for warmth, if anything else, which was pretty shocking. Sandy, definitely. I would recommend closed-toe shoes for that. You get a lot of sand breathing in too, so if you have allergies, you might want to bring some allergy medication just in case. It's also really, really windy, so that probably didn't help with the wind chill. It made it a lot colder. When we were in Hurghada, it was also really windy, but it was like 72 degrees, a little bit warmer, but it was freezing. We could not get away from the wind, and it was just so cold. And take that as you will. I'm from Florida, the South, so I'm a little bit of a cold wimp, if you want to say that. There's some people that I talked to that went later in the summer and said it was super, super hot. So it really just depends on what time of the year you go, but don't be fooled. It does get cold in Egypt, and it even rained one of the nights we were in Cairo, which she said hadn't happened in 3 weeks. So take that as you will. I wouldn't prepare for rain, but it was cold and it did rain in the desert. Wild. The last question I usually get is, what do you pack for Egypt? And a lot of people hear a lot of different things about covering your shoulders, covering your knees, being really modest, especially females. But from my experience and those in my tour group, people didn't really care what you wear as long as you were not unreasonable. Like, we're not at a club in Miami. You can wear tank tops, you can wear shorts, just don't have your cleavage hanging out or your butt cheeks hanging out of the bottom of your shorts. Just be respectful, and pretty much nobody cares beyond that. Some of the things I packed a lot of neutral colors, a lot of things that were able to go with multiple outfits. I only ever pack a carry-on backpack as my luggage. This trip was 11 days, including flying there and flying home. So it was about 8 days in Egypt. And so I had to fit everything into the carry-on. There was not a chance to do laundry because we were go, temple to temple, city to city. And so it was, I wore everything that I packed. This is one of the things that I had. It's a little bodysuit from Shein. Came in a 3-pack. There's a black one and a white one as well. I wore them with a lot of solid color, kind of like linen pants. This is one of them. It's just black, got some pockets, tapered at the end. Really comfy, really light. It would keep me from the sun, the dust. Went with a bunch of different shirts. Here's another shirt that I brought. Just a basic crop top, not too short. It could go with anything really. I also brought some jumpers that I wore with my one jacket that I brought and by themselves. I did borrow someone's jean jacket at one point for the Sunrise Hot Air Balloon ride so that I could wear something a little bit different because I was sick of wearing my jacket halfway through the tour. But this one's just basic green. If you can't tell, green's one of my favorite colors. Tapered at the bottom as well. Flowy, easy, rolls right up in my backpack. nice and small. Here's another jumpsuit I brought. This one has elephants on it. Pretty much the same as the other one. Nice and light, comfy. It looks pretty good against the desert sand. So this is the jacket that I brought. I brought it to wear on the airplane, and I did not think I was going to need it again after the airplane, and I was very wrong. I wore it every single day and every single night, and I really wanted to buy a sweatshirt, but I couldn't find any there. But it's just another green kind of cargo-y jacket. It's a little bit shorter than a normal jacket is, but it worked. It did the job. I wish I had something a little bit warmer. For shoes, I brought 2 pairs of shoes. I brought a pair of sandals and this pair of slides. I got these off of Amazon. They were really comfy. They wiped right off. They didn't get too dirty. They kept the sand from sticking to my feet and in between my toes, and they were good for walking around long distances because we did a lot of walking through the temples, around the pyramids, riding a camel. You don't want to be in sandals. So I definitely recommend bringing closed-toe shoes, but in Hurghada there is a beach and you do a beach day, so sandals are also nice to have, so I would recommend having both. Thank y'all for watching. Subscribe, like, use my code UAChristina100 right here for money off your first trip with EF Ultimate Break. You do have to use the link in the comments to activate the code. If you don't use the link, the code won't be valid. So just make sure you use my link and my code, and it'll get you money off your trip. I am not paid by EF Ultimate Break. I am an EF Ultimate ambassador. Decided to become an ambassador after this trip because of how much I do love EF Ultimate Break and all of their tours that I've been on so far. I've also been on London and Scotland and Thailand back in New Year's of 2019 going into 2020, right before the world shut down. So that was a fun last trip before we were stuck for about a year, unable to travel. If y'all have any other questions, just feel free to leave a comment. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have on this EF trip or any other EF trips.